Good evening, folks. For any of you guys watching this, first off, thank you. Um, Hopefully, any of my videos on here, any of my just random, like, thinking compilations, if you will, um, expand your horizons a little bit. So, figured start there tonight. Um, I've been thinking a lot about friendships and, like, the people that we allow into our lives. And right now, I'm down in Arizona, and I've got a lot of people who I've considered for a long time friends. Um, I've got a decent number of friends here, and a couple of friends back in Washington, a couple of friends on the East Coast. So I've got a couple of friends international. I've got a smidgen of people pretty much in most places, or I should say in a lot of places. Um, but lately I've been really trying to figure out what I want to do at the end of the year when my lease is up in my apartment. Because the plan was always to rent here for a year and then during that time decide what's next. And as a part of that, the conversation internally has kind of forced me to, not really forced, I know that's probably not the right phrasing for that, but led me down the path of reevaluating my friendships down here and if they're actually friendships or if they're just kind of friendships based out of convenience. Um, and I know on my end, right? So there's two sides to every coin, right? I know on my end they're not. Like most of the people that I classify as friends are like they can call me at pretty much any time, and unless I'm like neck deep in some shit, I'm gonna be picking up and helping however I can. But as I've over the last 6 months or so, as I've been reaching out and trying to not really test because that's not what I've been doing. More so see the framework of what the friendships are that I have down here. Um, I've noticed some things that have been really interesting. So before I get too deep into that, I'm going to lay out a little bit of a framework here. So generally speaking, the way I look at friends is there's like three categories. All right, so you've got your acquaintances. Those are just generally people you know. Those are like every once in a while you'll chat with them. You don't really get too personal with them. It's all a lot of like surface level type stuff. Then there's your actual friends, right? And you may not talk to them a ton. Um, the older you get, the less that tends to happen, where you talk to them as much. Time kind of changes things. Um, but and then so there's your middle ground kind of friends, right? Those are the people that you'll hit up like every month or so and be like, hey, let's go do something, you know. And then there's the what I'm calling kind of like your closer friends, more like the definition I like to use for that is like ride or die, right? Those are the types of people that like I don't mean that literally necessarily, but um, those are the types of people that you know when you're like down pretty hard and you need somebody who's gonna be there and actually be there, right? Not just providing lip service or anything like that, but like actually truly be there. Um, and they genuinely and truly want what's best for you, right? And they're willing to put in the time and uh, what's the other word for that? Put in the time and effort, basically, right? Like they'll reach out, it's reciprocated and all of that, and yeah, generally speaking, like if you're remotely self-aware, you kind of know like when things pop off, you know who you're calling, right? I used to think I had a lot more of those. But over the last 6 months or so, as I've been starting to reevaluate things, more so over the last like 2 or 3 months, um, I've realized that list really comes down to four people for me. Uh, One of those four is like kind of teeters on that edge a little bit between friend and like ride or die type. She's probably not in that list, so let's just call it three, and then a good friend, right? Um, and I realized lately that none of them are here. Two of them are back up in Washington, and one is in Romania currently, who's looking and considering moving. And I'm not moving to Romania, so I've been kind of thinking through, and like once I realized that, it started making me question, okay, like what is it about the friendships down here that make it so that they don't meet that bar of like good friend, like really like the really close like relationships and friends. Um, and I kind of noticed that a lot of them, after a lot of like self-thought and introspection, a lot of those are seemingly, and it's hard to delineate this for an absolute statement of fact, but the more I look at it and the more I like try to piece things together, a lot of those friendships are driven by me and only when it's convenient for the other person. Which, when you really stop and think about it, is that really a friendship? And to me, the answer to that is no, not really. Right? That's just somebody's fun to hang out with when it's convenient. You know, like, oh, I don't really have anything going on that night, or you know, yeah, I guess I can make time. Those are the types of people that like when you want to hang out, right? Like you're doing all the driving for it. You're heading all the like they haven't come to see you in months, or hell, honestly not even months, like years, right? And whenever you hang out, it's you going to them. Because at the end of the day, right, effort means a lot, at least for me, and as I imagine, probably for a lot of people. Um, but it's kind of like as I've kind of walked through and reviewed each of my friendships down here, they generally fall into two categories. There are people that I've known for a long time, like 4 or 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in some cases. Actually, are there any down here that are call it 10 years is the rough max timeline, right? Because most of those were from school, um, and they're like three of them I hang out with very rarely, but I'm the one initiating it, and I'm going to them pretty much all the time. Um, and I've kind of made like a lot of exceptions for those people because like they've got kids, they've got family and stuff like that. But at a certain point, it's just like really like over 2.5 years, you can't spend one day to drive 45 minutes to hang out for 3, 4, 5 hours. That seems off. Um, like one of my friends, two of my friends actually down here, um, they haven't come down at all this year, and I'm significant. Well, not significant. I'm about a half hour closer now, so I'm about 25, 30 minutes away from them. Um, they came down once in my last house, which I was there for 2 years, and then they didn't come down at all the year before that. Um, so it's like once in what 4 years, call it? Yeah. And I'm like that. That doesn't play. No, that's at that point it is like it's a value judgment, right? Like I value that friendship based on action alone. I value that friendship way more than they do, and that's fair enough. I'm not going to fault anybody for that. It's just the realization kind of hits you at a certain point of what is, and then if you're smart, you have to kind of take that, look at surrounding circumstances, and take action and move forward in some way, shape, or form, whatever that looks like for you. Um, it sucks, to be straight up honest with you. It really sucks. People that I thought were like good friends, that were like they were in it with me, really aren't, unless it's convenient for them. And like I get it, right? Like convenience is important, but at times it's more important to like you have to, if you really want to maintain relationships with people, especially friends and even like romantic relationships, so like a lot of this relates to those as well, just ramped up, right? um, if you want to maintain relationships with people that are like productive, positive, long lasting, there's got to be effort going both ways, because if it's only one way, some people will take that forever. There are definitely those people out there, but I'm not one of them. Over time, I'm going to start noticing a trend. I'm going to start testing on that. I'm going to start like, hey, like what the hell is going on here? And then eventually it's going to come down to, okay, you're not nearly as in this as I am. And I don't generally just like walk those back. Um, I'm not the type, for the most part, to just go, oh, okay, I'll just move you back to the acquaintances thing and, we'll be good. or just keep you in like that friend loop and just be like, yeah, okay, we're good. If you reach out every once in a while, sure, that's fair enough. But outside of that, like, why would I spend effort on the bulk of relationships that I have right now that are convenience based for at least half of the parties when I can instead put that effort into other things, right? Whether that's some of my more connected relationships with people and friendships, or self-betterment, or any number of things. Heck, I could put all that effort into this if I wanted to, if I thought that that was something I wanted to do. But there's a lot of different things going on right now in my life, and I can utilize that effort elsewhere. You know, um, so it's been really interesting, but it's kind of gotten me to the point where I'm like, okay, as I've reevaluated things, I'm kind of looking at my life going, what's next? And it's starting more and more week by week to look like I'll be moving out of Arizona. I'll tell very few people anyway down here that I'm moving. Uh, if people don't reach out and people don't ask, I'm not going to even bother broaching the subject with them, because, you know, like, if it's just a surface level conversation of, hey, how's it been, blah blah blah, no, that's whatever. That's just mundane crap. Obviously, if it turns into like an actual conversation with genuine interest, then I'm down. I'll share that for sure. But what it really comes down to is just like, okay, why? So most likely at the end of the year, I will officially be, well, not officially, but most likely at the end of the year, I'll be leaving Arizona. I will absolutely miss the sun. Um, I'm moving back to like Washington area, trying to keep close distance-ish to family up there, like my mom and my sister, and my two really close friends that I know that, like, if I hit them up and be like, hey, let's go do something, they're going to be like, okay, sure, yeah. Maybe not like every weekend, but like, I don't generally want to go do something every weekend anyway. Everybody's kind of got a life of their own. You got to balance that, right? But it's not, those relationships weren't when I left and won't be when I go back, um, one-sided. You know, there will be points of time where like each relationship tends to be one-sided. That's just kind of the nature of it. But at the same time, it's like you can give grace for only so long before it's just no. And those relationships I know will stand the test of time, right? That's just the nature of them. It's the same with my buddy out in Romania. Like, there is a fourth guy who lives out in Georgia right now that he's been pretty consistent in a lot of things, and I forgot to include him earlier. I don't know if I'd put him up at the same level, but he's pretty darn close. And he's just been super busy. Like, I get that life happens. Like, he's got a bunch of stuff going on. I'm well aware of most of what that is, at least to some degree. So like, you get some grace with that, fair enough. Um, but I I challenge each of you, for any of you watching this, to go through all your relationships and all your friends, all those people that you hold in your life, and ask yourself, um, what is this friendship really? Am I being engaged like I should be? Is this friendship one-sided on either yours or their part? Like, are you making all the effort? Are they making all the effort? Like, how do those things look? And then seriously dig in and be like, okay, if these things are lopsided, or if there are things that need to be improved in them, do you honestly think that both parties, or the necessary parties, depending, are willing to actually put in the effort to make that change? And if not, make your own judgment on what you want to do. You know, some people are going to be much more apt to just keep people. It's my buddy in Georgia. Like, he keeps tons of people in his life, and honestly, I'll be real, I don't know how he does it. I'd go nuts, but different personalities, different folks. So I highly recommend that, not all at once, but slowly over time, that you start to look at your different friendships and relationships that you have with people, and try to understand like what those look like, and if you're okay with them, because at the end of the day, only you get to make that judgment call. And if you don't make a judgment call one way or another, fair enough. Like that choice is entirely yours to make. You get to live with the decisions you make, for better or worse. That's just the way the life is. So this is probably pretty rambly, and that's okay. It's kind of the point of these things, is for me to just kind of talk through my thoughts. So hopefully any of you that are listening to this, take the advice. I think it'll help reallocate or maybe reprioritize where you put your effort into things. If not, great. Fair enough. If things are going great for you, awesome. I'm super happy for you. But just kind of something that's been on my mind a lot lately. So thanks for checking this out, and have a good one.